Story 1. They took my nephew on Christmas.
My story is many years old, and it's about a nephew I had. And in this story, you'll see why I say I had him. He was a boy who had everything at 7 years old, but he was quite arrogant. He said many bad words, and I don't mean to speak ill of him, because I obviously adored him, but he had traits I wished he could change. My sister and brother-in-law are very hard-working people who try to cover their emotional absence with material things, and whenever he said or did something out of line, they excused it by saying it was just his age. Years ago, they came to spend Christmas with us. We gathered as a family like we hadn't done in a long time. The gathering was at my grandparents' house, a huge house with a giant yard, decorated with lights and ornaments beautifully. As soon as they arrived, he started complaining about the house. He said it was old, argued with his cousins, and used curse words even adults wouldn't dare use. In a corner were my grandparents, my parents, my uncles, and some of their friends, older people who clearly looked uncomfortable with his behavior. Anyway, we sat down for dinner, and with his tantrums and insults, he ended up making my grandmother's friend angry, who got up and said, "Children who misbehave don't get gifts from Santa Claus." To which the boy replied, "And who is this old lady?" We were all speechless. We couldn't believe my nephew's response. My sister tried to fix the situation by asking everyone to forgive him, saying he was just a kid. I got up very upset, pulled her aside, and said, "Mariana, you have to do something. You can't allow him to be so rude at this age." But she said he was already like that. I preferred not to continue the conversation with her, as we would probably end up arguing. The clock showed 11:50 p.m. The kids were excited for Santa Claus's arrival, played by my older brother. We prepared everything for the toast. At midnight, the sky lit up with colors. My brother came in, ringing a bell, handing out gifts until he reached my nephew. When he gave him his gift, my nephew pulled off his beard and shouted, "Look, kids, it's Uncle, it's him!" That was the last straw. My brother, upset, went to change. The atmosphere was tense. After a while, the other children went to bed. We took the moment to leave gifts under the tree. We stayed outside for a while, and one by one we went to sleep. I remember it was 3 a.m. I got up to get water and heard a faint noise. I went to the stairs and saw my nephew opening all the gifts. I thought, if I say something now, he'll start screaming and wake everyone up. Better talk to Mariana tomorrow. Just as I was heading back to my room, I heard another noise. It sounded like a bell. I wondered what he was doing now. I went back to the stairs and saw a tall silhouette in the shape of a goat with a long tongue in front of him. I tried to scream, but it looked at me, gestured, and I fell to the floor, frozen and voiceless. I could see it lifting my nephew with one hand and putting him into a basket on its back, then disappearing into the darkness. Before disappearing, it said in a thunderous voice, "If you say anything, next time it will be your daughter." After a year of searching for my nephew, my sister and brother-in-law gave up and left the country. That night changed everything for me, and now, with Christmas approaching again, I always make sure, after giving my daughter her gift, to bring her to sleep with us. I just sit, waiting for the night to pass, praying it doesn't fulfill its threat.
Story 2. The Killer Santa Claus.
This story was told to me by my grandmother. It happened more than 40 years ago in what is now Lázaro Cárdenas neighborhood. She said that neighborhood was full of legends, including a girl who had died in a fire and whose spirit wandered the streets, leaving the smell of sulfur and burnt flesh. The story I will share is said to have really happened around Christmas. She said that when she was young, she had 2 friends who were neighbors named Paco and Luis. The 3 were very close and always played until late in the afternoon. December arrived and Christmas was near. As always, they were excited about Santa Claus arriving, eager for their new toys. However, one night there was a commotion in the neighborhood because Paco disappeared. The last time he was seen, he was playing with Luis, who was later found on a rooftop, pale and terrified. When asked about Paco's whereabouts, Luis didn't react, only repeating, "Santa Claus took him." People immediately started looking for the boy, thinking he had been kidnapped. Luis didn't give details. He only repeated that Santa Claus had taken Paco. Months passed, and Paco was never found. One day, while talking to my grandmother, Luis described in detail what had happened that night. He said he and Paco were playing soccer when suddenly a plump man with a white beard appeared on a rooftop and started calling them. Paco, excited, shouted it was Santa Claus, and they approached him. The man jumped from the roof to the ground. Luis thought he floated for a moment and looked exactly like the Santa Claus we know. But unlike Paco, he felt uneasy around him. The man had a sack. Paco asked if there were toys in the sack. According to Luis, the man had black, ugly teeth and smelled bad. The man told Paco that the sack contained potatoes and pumpkins for dinner, and that he was searching for the final ingredient for his meal. After saying this, the man started chasing the boys. He grabbed Paco and dragged him away. Luis climbed the rooftop and saw how the man carried Paco, who cried and begged to be released. The Santa Claus figure laughed, saying he hadn't eaten child flesh for centuries, and that tonight Paco would be his feast. Paco was considered one more of the many missing children in the country. My grandmother always warned that during Christmas, when people believe in magic and miracles, dark forces can also appear, and we should beware of things that are neither logical nor rational.
Story 3. Shadows Playing in the Trees.
I want to tell you something that happened to me more than 15 years ago during Christmas. I was with my cousins. Back then, we spent the posadas at my grandparents' farm. My cousins and I were all roughly the same age, around 8 to 10 years old, except two older ones, Santiago, 12, and Carlos, nicknamed Negro, 13. Before the Posada prayers, we went to play in a distant part of the farm near a water pump. In that area there was barely any light, only a few bulbs near a water tap by a tree. Santiago and Negro proposed a game. They would hide behind a row of trees, and we had to throw stones at them. If we hit them, they had to guess who hit them, and if they guessed correctly, they would give us candies from their Christmas gifts. We started playing, and after a while we saw two figures climbing the trees. We threw stones at them, but they jumped from tree to tree in a strange way. However, we continued the game until Santiago and Negro came out from behind us, surrounding us through a nearby plot. They asked us who we were throwing stones at. That's when we realized the figures were still jumping from tree to tree at incredible speed. We all started running to the front of the farm where our mothers were. Then my cousin Arturo fell strangely, as if someone or something dragged him a few meters. Santiago and his brother rushed to lift him, and we continued running, now even faster, in total panic. We reached the adults and told them what happened, but despite our agitation, they didn't believe us. To this day, they still don't. That was the first Christmas something strange happened to us, and I say first, because every Christmas afterward, strange things kept occurring. But that one was the most shocking.
Story 4: The Cursed Tree.
My name is Jason, and my story isn't very long, but it was terrifying for me and my family. When I was little, every year my parents bought a real Christmas tree. It had become a tradition, also because it left a pleasant pine scent throughout the house. That year, we went to a new place where trees were a bit cheaper. The decorations would be the same as previous years. Personally, I didn't like natural trees because I always liked to take care of nature. It was a Saturday, and we went to buy the tree. I remember it was beautiful, about 2 meters tall. It was truly gorgeous. But from that day on, we started hearing someone crying in the house at night. The first time I heard it, I thought it was my brother, but when I checked, he was fast asleep. Strange. Days went by, and I still thought I was the only one hearing the cries. One night, my brother left his room because he also heard the lamenting. It sounded like a woman or a child. We peeked through the window, but saw no one outside, so it must have been inside the house. That night, the sound was louder, to the point my parents woke up thinking I was crying, but it wasn't me. There was no one in the living room either. Only the lights from the Christmas series illuminated the room, when suddenly we saw a shadow pass by the tree. My father quickly turned on all the lights, but no one was there. Still, we clearly saw someone pass. He checked that all doors and windows were locked, and they were. No one was there. After a few minutes, we went to sleep. The next morning, during breakfast, the news reported that the place where we bought the tree had been a mass grave for criminals, and authorities were searching for those responsible. It was believed the owners and sellers knew. That's when we understood the cries. My father finally threw the tree away. Seeing shadows or hearing cries at night was terrifying. After that, we decided to buy artificial trees and never experienced paranormal events again.
Story 5. The Girl Who Appears at Christmas.
It was Christmas 1999. The family gathered at my grandmother's house in Santa Catarina, Los Portales neighborhood. All the uncles arrived with food, gifts, and sweets. I was very close to my cousins, Claudia and Alfonso. We loved teasing Alfonso with pranks until he got mad. It was our tradition. During the night, everyone went to sleep for Santa Claus's arrival, according to tradition. My 14-year-old cousin sent us to sleep. There was no room in the house because the entire family stayed that day. My cousin slept on the living room couch next to the bags of nativity sweets. While everyone was asleep, my cousin said he felt someone talking to him and touching his shoulder. Thinking it was one of us, he told them to leave him alone. The second time, he realized it was the voice of a girl he didn't know, which made him wake up to see who it was. When he turned around, he saw a girl asking him for candy. He got so scared, he jumped from the couch and ran to the bedroom where everyone slept. Everyone woke up. Some were skeptical. Others said it wasn't the first time this happened. My mother and grandmother then said that when I was 5, I always talked to a girl at the window who invited me to play, and I would go out, but when I opened the door, my grandmother would wake up, take me back to bed while I was sleepwalking. I don't remember this, but they said it happened. Many uncles and cousins saw me talking to that girl. They asked me what she looked like, and the description matched my cousin's encounter. Years passed, and neighbors started talking about paranormal experiences in the block. The area had been built on an old cemetery. My grandfather, who helped build the first houses, said he had to remove human bones while installing the plumbing.
Story 6. The Laugh That Watches You.
My name is Ricardo, and I want to share a small story from my childhood. I don't remember at what age the strange events began, but ever since I can remember, my mother always put up the Christmas tree at the beginning of December. I was very young, and these events always happened. I heard voices during the Christmas season, but as an innocent child, I ignored them to just enjoy my life. However, as the years went by, I began to experience them firsthand. Every December, during the Christmas season, small stones were thrown at the large window of our house. It didn't happen every day, but it was frequent. When I was about 10 years old, it happened to me. Small stones were being thrown at the window with short pauses in between. Hearing it, I decided to act. I quietly went to the front door, just as another stone bounced against the window. I opened the door, but there was no one. However, I did notice a small laugh among the wind. I was stunned. My house is on a corner. One side leads to the avenue, the other continues as a street. I ran to the avenue, looking behind me to make sure no one came from the other side. The street was deserted, with a creepy atmosphere, and the sun almost setting. There was fog, and I heard a loud bang. The door slammed shut, even though there was no wind. My body froze, and I ran inside. That was the last day anyone in the house experienced pranks during the Christmas season. But I swear I will never forget that laugh.
Story 7. The Ghostly Cowboy.
I'm from Monterrey, Nuevo León, and this happened to me many years ago when I was 10. One night on Christmas Eve, we were visiting my grandparents' house in San Nicolás de los Garzas in Lanahuac. This was one of many posadas we attended. I remember it was night, and we were in the living room, everyone talking. My 1-year-old brother wanted his bottle, so my mother sent me to my grandparents' room to get the diaper bag. As I walked, I saw a man dressed in black cowboy clothing, wearing a hat, entering from the left main door. There was a hallway shaped like a cross. My uncle came from the right side, and I was in the middle, heading to the room. The man walked very slowly. I stared at him because I didn't know who he was. I also found it strange why he was walking so slowly. I couldn't see his face clearly. Suddenly, my uncle noticed him and made faces at me, as if to say, "Who is this guy?" I gestured that I didn't know. The man entered the room. I followed him, and my uncle behind me, when I saw him walk through the bed. I was shocked. He seemed like smoke. My uncle entered and asked, "Where did he go?" I told him he disappeared. He checked the bathroom. He wasn't there. I told him he had passed through the bed. My uncle was stunned and didn't know what to say. I ran from the room in fear and told my mother. Of course, she didn't believe me. I have always wondered who that cowboy man was. I remember my uncle confronted a very religious aunt, thinking she had some friend in the house, but it wasn't anyone we knew. Over time, we learned that in that house, many years ago, a man who dressed like that had died there.